Hello everyone, it's the Night Sky Prince and I am joined by my companion here, FishFriedCat, and we're going to be talking about that brand new Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind trailer, which was pretty good. Probably looked even better than the actual main game did. I mean, it looked phenomenal. I was just blown away by how it looked. FishFriedCat here is also a YouTuber. He makes some really good videos that we'll be discussing later, but say hello.
Hello, Kings.
I want to talk about our feelings toward the base game first of all. So, from my understanding, you quite enjoyed the base game of Kingdom Hearts 3, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually, more than I thought I would, and it's probably the low expectations, but I don't know, like, something really clicked for me with that game, and it definitely wasn't the story, I'll say that much, but...
Right, the story pacing was kind of off, but you liked the gameplay generally, right?
Yeah, so I felt like the gameplay felt a lot like how I remembered Kingdom Hearts 2 playing way back in the day, just like with some cool little extra features, probably the Keyblade transformations being my favorite part of it. The game also felt like there was a very strong focus on aerial battles, which Kingdom Hearts made me fall in love with that type of thing. And then the visuals this time around were just like really gorgeous, so I think that added to it.
Right, the aerial battles and stuff like that, that was probably the coolest aspect of the gameplay, honestly. Just how you could like block in midair. For me, I sort of felt the same way. I feel like the gameplay was passable enough. It wasn't quite as tight as like Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix in terms of its balancing, but I felt like it was fun in terms of gameplay. My real beef, like you were saying, really comes in with the story pacing, where everything was just kind of at those last 2 hours. It just, yeah. it felt super off. But
though I also want to add in real quick that I intentionally did not play Kingdom Hearts 2 on critical just so I wouldn't, go in with such a critical mind when playing 3. So I had that kind of comparison of playing Kingdom Hearts 2 on proud mode back how I remember it,
right,
and Kingdom Hearts 3 on proud mode, this current day. So I really didn't want this old PS2 game like really making me wish I was playing that instead of like the shiny new Kingdom Hearts 3 game I've been waiting over a decade for.
Right, and that's a smart move because after you play critical mode on Kingdom Hearts 2, you automatically turn into a Kingdom Hearts elitist, and everything else just doesn't feel good. At least that's what they tell me. I mean, I'm a critical player, and I really enjoy the mechanics of Kingdom Hearts. So I've been kind of on like all the other games because I feel like 2 just sort of perfectly nailed the sort of action RPG mechanics, and the balancing was just right. I don't think 3 is necessarily horrendous, but the balancing definitely could have been more closer to how 2 felt, where it challenged you and engaged you, though critical mode in 3 is... Whew. But let's dive into the Remind trailer.
Yeah, let's do that.
Final Fantasy characters are back. We saw Aerith. We saw Squall, Leon, excuse me. We saw Yuffie.
Yes.
So
we didn't see Sid, and that's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, we didn't see Sid. I really don't know if everyone's going to be there. Who I'm really wondering about at this moment is Cloud and Sephiroth.
I feel like that has to be a thing, especially to hype up 7 Remake, and it's been a while, but didn't Kingdom Hearts 2 kind of leave their beef unfinished?
It did, and so it was like, oh, they went into another realm, and then it didn't really comment on what that meant. So it kind of, I guess it alluded to them like going back to Midgar. It's almost, in a way, that's almost like prophetic, isn't it? Like they sort of got reincarnated and like...
Hey, when did Kingdom Hearts 2 come out, and when that compilation happened?
That's around the same time. That's like around 2005. And in a recent interview, Nomura was like, oh yeah, I always intended to remake Final Fantasy VII, even back during the compilation days.
Dude, that slick bastard.
I feel like he may have intended that. I don't know. That's so weird. He's so cryptic. Seeing them all back is really exciting, but there has to be a Sephiroth fight here. I just feel like...
that has to be like probably the next trailer stinger, or at some point to make people really go, okay, I'm gonna buy this DLC.
Right. It was nice seeing them back. I'm really curious though about their function. So they were in Hollow Bastion, or Radiant Garden, I'm sorry, whichever you prefer. I still prefer Hollow Bastion.
It's a cool
It's cooler name, right?
Both are cool names, but I prefer Hollow Bastion.
I do too. It just sounds like epic in a way. So it looked like they were just all there like chilling and talking. So there's no like, is it going to be explorable or?
Yeah. Did this also look like it took place after the game when Sora disappears?
I kind of got that vibe too. And even when we saw the scene with him and Kairi together, I was sort of thinking like, you know, like when did that happen? The only place logically that could happen is somewhere in between the ending, or I mean somewhere in between the fight with Xehanort ends, like what we see at the sort of epilogue.
I rewatched this trailer a couple times and it just seemed like some of this has to be, you know, post the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3. Most of it obviously, you know, during, and it seems like they're going to fill in some gaps, which I'm all for, but I don't know, I'm really fascinated to see what they're doing with this, and it could also be a case of the like with Final Fantasy 15, the trailer being way more interesting than the main game.
Right. But alternatively, just like FF15, the DLC was also more interesting than some of the stuff in the main game. If I had to be fully honest, like Episode Arden and Episode Ignis like knocked it out of the park.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And just assuming that it's going to be, let's just say that you play straight from Episode Gladio all the way through Episode Ignis, right? There's somewhere between 4 to 6 hours of total completion to do that. So to think that we're going to get maybe like 5-ish hours of new gameplay, just plus or minus, that's just my estimate. That's like a decent sizable amount for whatever this DLC is going to cost, and how much they're adding, it seems cool.
It's just amazing to go from, man, I like Kingdom Hearts, I really did, but like I really don't care about Remind, because like that first trailer they put out was where
garbage.
They didn't have any voice acting. It was awful.
It was garbage. I was so dumbfounded.
You watch it and then you just kind of watch it again going, they really released this, didn't they? Like they really thought it was a good idea.
They really did. I didn't understand.
Yeah, and then this one goes, oh, okay. Like, yeah, let me pre-order that.
Yeah. It was almost like they were like, oh yeah, I suppose that we have to make people want to buy this. And it just didn't dawn on them before. There's also going to be new playable characters, which we knew, but we did not know that Kairi would be one of them.
Not only Kairi, but the versus epic Kairi.
Yeah.
You saw that sword warp she did?
Yeah. She was like warping, and it was really cool. It was like a warp strike.
Oh my god.
So I'm like, man, I still feel like she needs to get her own game or something like that, but this DLC seems really aware of itself. Like, it seems like they've listened.
Yeah, like, what, the first 15-20 seconds they showed Final Fantasy characters, and I remember that being, like, one of the biggest, when Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out, it's like, oh, where's the Final Fantasy? Where is it? I'm not a fan of, not that big of a fan of Disney, so like when Kingdom Hearts first came out, it's like, oh yeah, haha, funny Disney. And then I saw like Final Fantasy characters, I'm like, that is why I want to play it. I mean, now obviously from Final Fantasy, I grew to love the Kingdom Hearts characters and kind of care about that own world. But like, I thought it was really weird because, correct me if I'm wrong, weren't Final Fantasy characters in every Kingdom Hearts game up until 3?
Not every, because they weren't in... There were none in Dream Drop Distance. There was just the World Ends With You characters. There was Zack in Birth by Sleep. Cloud has been in all the mainline ones.
Yeah, and he was in Chain of Memories.
Yeah, they fit in every time. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 was like the only time where you didn't see any outside Square Enix character throughout the whole thing, except for maybe like people would say like a Cactuar, sorry.
Dude, that one still kind of like rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, and like people are like, oh, there's Final Fantasy characters, here's Cactuar. I'm like, okay. There's Moogles too.
To see the post in Ultima like happen whenever like somebody found out about that Cactuar, and then I was just like, shut up.
Yeah, that does not count.
What we asked for.
That does not count. Like, yeah, to actually see them in there now is super cool. Scala ad Kylum actually being an explorable area is cool too.
Yeah, like, they're doing more with that, and that was like by far one of the most interesting visually looking areas, and now like they're gonna do more with it than just what was it? It was like that one cool boss fight, and then it went to the Xehanort fight.
Yeah. So it's really cool how Scala at Kylum is now an explorable area, at least from the looks of it. They had like that dream drop distance type like grinding rail thing.
Yeah, like they really didn't do much with Scala at Kylum, and that was like one of the coolest worlds I think I've ever seen them put out in like probably any Square Enix game, really. And the fact that like you go there, you see this amazing looking world, and then it's just like a cool boss fight with like, you know, all the organization members, I guess, and the cool cloak, and then the fight with Xehanort, which was also kind of cool, but like that was it to it. There was nothing else.
Right. And it was just like you were saying, I completely agree that it was probably the most beautiful, like one of the most beautiful Square Enix locations I've ever seen. It was up there with Altissia from 15, which was one of my absolute favorites. I remember when Altissia was first revealed, I freaked out because I just like, oh my god, it's the most gorgeous city. But yeah, they didn't do anything with it. It was just like an arena for a boss fight, and that felt like such a waste.
This must have been like a result of them having to scrap the game and restart it again on Unreal Engine 4, right?
Maybe.
Like, because we're having like this kind of argument again that I'm not, I guess not argument, maybe you can call it that, but this should have been in the base game.
So honestly, with all this content, do you really feel like maybe it just should have all been in the base game? Like, do you feel like, sort of like that same meme with Final Fantasy 15, where everyone felt like, oh, this should have been in the base game and not DLC? Do you feel like this is something missing from the actual game itself, from the story?
If it was mostly stuff where it takes place post-game, like how we thought earlier, and then no, I wouldn't feel that way, but like they're showing off a bunch of stuff with the Keyblade Graveyard and being able to play as those other characters, and just, I don't know, just from the stuff they showed in the trailer, it felt like, yeah, this should have been in the base game, but we're probably special cases where we're a bit more sympathetic to like the devs and how they have to deal with, you know,
right? Because most people aren't.
They more than likely scrapped the game and had to restart, and then some of this feels like, oh yeah, they're definitely filling in the gaps, and this should have been in there from the start. But I understand, so I'm not going to fault them for it.
Nomura actually, he talked about how he wanted to sort of fit the Final Fantasy characters in. He talked about this in Kingdom Hearts 3 Ultimania, and he was saying that he had them model the characters out in case they had time to fit them in, but ultimately they obviously didn't, and so that's why they were left out. So in hindsight, as soon as we read that in the Ultimania, I think we should have actually figured that they would have been in this DLC. So that really makes a lot of sense. But it's just so strange though that it just kind of feels like some of this, like you were saying, it's like maybe reinterpretations of past events, sort of like a secondary cut of the game.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if like this is actually going to retcon some stuff, you know, hopefully for the better.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of room to retcon things for the better, considering how the things like went. So,
you know, like how long was the game? 30 hours to the first 28 hours of the game?
Yeah, and then like the whole story's in like the last 2. So, and then there was the end of the Remind trailer where you see Yozora, and that was some hardcore versus 13 baby. Because they made it look, they made the silhouette look like Noctis, and then they sort of have it like on this like night sky background, and the whole time you're like, is that supposed to be? But then
we all know at this point, yeah, it's supposed to be that.
Right, from everything we've seen, I mean, it's obviously supposed to be a metaphor for Versus 13. He really is not gonna give up on that game.
You know what? Like, Nomura, like, on our end, it feels like, yeah, he's doing, like, a lot of questionable things with Kingdom Hearts, and just, like, whatever else he touches, and then, like, you get the little hints of, the Versus, like, kind of feels like spite towards Square for, pulling off the project. I actually really respect him, because he's just really not giving up, and, like, he's doing his best to make sure, like, we're getting the Versus epic, whether it's all in, like, one game, or if it's just spread out through every little project he does. Like, I think it was Platinum, one of the guys who helped with Nier Automata, and then he ended up directing Astral Chain.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard on some other podcast that like some of the seniors at Platinum were talking about like how they knew that guy became a director. Like the moment they saw him like as a legit director, and one of them was like he wouldn't take no for an answer. Like if he had an idea of what he wanted in the game, he was gonna keep it and fight for it like tooth and nail. And at that point, they were like, "Yep, he's the real deal." And I feel like that's Nomura with the Versus series.
It kind of is, and I think that's actually a quality that you really want in a good director, because they're determined to make anything happen, or whatever they want to happen.
Like I know it's the most important to him because I was like his baby, and he talked about like when there an interview where he said he kind of got emotional when he drew Noctis for Dissidia NT.
Yeah, he said that on the live stream. He said like it brought like a tear to his eye.
So like obviously it's more emotional for him, but there were a lot of people, including us, who just really wish we could have gotten that game, and I'm kind of glad like he's kind of sticking it wherever he can.
I am too, and I really hope that something like of substance actually comes of him sort of baiting us into this. Like I hope that it's not just like us being like pulled around.
Yeah, like if we end up getting like a spin-off like Virum Rex or something, or just having something like that, I'd be very content with it.
Yeah. So this trailer had leaked early, and apparently from the leaks, people said in the description that the Xbox version is going to be coming in February, but the PlayStation version is coming next month. So PlayStation users are getting it 1 month ahead of time. I don't think I recall like any other situation where a game had released and then a year later the DLC came out for it and it's a massive expansion, but one platform got it so much further ahead of time, like a full month.
Do you think... Well, I don't think like Sony exclusivity would have played a factor in it, because like people would have already had their games, right?
Right, and so that's what strikes me as weird, because usually it's something that if there's DLC at launch, they sort of bait you into buying it for one platform or another. So this is the first time I've really seen the game is already out, and the DLC is something that's coming a year after the fact, almost on like the 1 year anniversary of the game. So it's kind of like, man, if you bought the game for Xbox and you really want the DLC, you should just buy it again.
Hey, it was pretty cheap on Black Friday.
Right. You can get the game for cheap in general, but it's strange that they are doing that.
I hope that's not true, because like I'm not looking at the specs in front of me, but aren't at this point like PlayStation and Xbox just kind of like choose what exclusives you prefer to have at this point?
They're pretty similar performance-wise, but the base PS4 is a lot stronger than the base Xbox One. Not by like a giant margin, but by like a noticeable margin. So for example, both versions are sub 1080p on the base PS4 and base Xbox One. The base Xbox One version of this game runs at 720p, which is something that I have not seen since like Xbox 360, like last generation, like with PS3 and those systems. Like 720p, like for this generation, is actually pretty low for the consoles to be running. Granted, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a very gorgeous game and it definitely pushes the hardware, so I'm not surprised, but that's kind of bad. I don't think it's a technical issue though.
But then what? Like
I think Sony wrote a check.
Like is that really worth doing? Like, do you see the people who are primarily Xbox players going, "Oh man, I really gotta go double dip into Kingdom Hearts 3 so I can get the DLC a month early."
Right. At the same time too, you also have to think like, would any like real like Kingdom Hearts, I don't want to phrase it like that. Let me just say, would any hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans who've already been consuming this content, with a lot of the content which has long been exclusive to PlayStation platforms, would they even have bought this game on Xbox in the first place? There are some people who wanted it because of the One X.
Well, I can make the argument that like if you're a real true hardcore Kingdom Hearts fan, you would have bought it on the Xbox just to keep up with the tradition of getting a new Kingdom Hearts game on like a different system.
That's true. That's very true. But I feel like you would have had it on the PS4, because that's the only way you could have gotten to play like previously, because now all these games are coming to Xbox. But even then, they're coming to Xbox so much later.
Yeah, but at least they'll be able to experience the best one.
That's true. But they won't be able to play Final Fantasy VII Remake for a while too. And that also makes me think that, you know, maybe Sony was like, hey, why don't you come over here? Like, I feel like that's what they did because, you know, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake is, it's obviously a timed exclusive. It's going to come to PC and probably Xbox at some point. But for the time being, they're saying that it is exclusive to PlayStation 4.
Yeah, because I don't think I've seen anything like that wasn't a first-party Sony game. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a game that wasn't a first-party Sony game, like keep that exclusivity. Eventually, they'll just go over to Xbox at some point, unless if it was something like Spider-Man or God of War.
Right. And it seems like it's definitely just timed exclusive content, and Sony opened up their checkbook and maybe they made it happen.
I mean, I would do the same.
But that's all the time that we have today, folks. Please be sure to check out Stefan, also known as FishFriedCat, here on YouTube. He has a very, 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 very good Aerith video that I recommend checking out. It's pretty funny. It's a great story.
I can't believe I got away with talking about what I did and got such good reception over it.
It's like, if people only, like, you see the video and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be like a fact about how Aeris's name got mistranslated, and then you watch it and you're like, whoa, I did not expect that. You go down the rabbit hole.
I'm the new generation of M. Night Shyamalan.
It really feels like it. All right. Please be sure to check out FishFriedCat. And as always, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon, and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, the trailer. I wish I could have played footage of it, but Square Enix will yell at me. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye, Ultima Weapons.